Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna alhamdulillahi wa kafah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulih al-Mustafa. Wa ala ibadihi alladhina irtada. Wa man bihudahum ihtada. Wa bi athari ahli al-Madinati iqtafa. Wa ba'd. Right, fasalamullahi alaykum. We have reached the section of Salatul Kusuf, which is the prayer at the time of eclipse, and it will discuss what is what will generally be a solar eclipse, but there is also a lunar eclipse by extension, which is called khusuf. So in Arabic, khusuf is referring to a solar eclipse, and khusuf with a kha is referring to a lunar eclipse in general. Okay, that's the type of words which are attributed for that. The ruling of this is a sunnah prayer, and it has some, it does have some peculiarities to it, and more by extension with how some of the ulama have disagreed, but we'll go over that, and we'll try and also go over Salatul Witr, and that's probably, and maybe Salatul Fajr, if we can do that quickly, and that will bring us up to Salatul Janaza, which is then the final section in Kitab al-Salah, and we can do that next session inshallah. So does somebody would you like to you want to read? So okay, I'll read it if you want.
No, if you don't have any volunteers, I'll do it. Maybe they want to. Shall I start?
نعم. Bismillah.
بسم الله. صلاة الكسوف سنة وسننها المختصة بها ست. هيئتها في الأداء وهي ركعتان. في كل ركعة ركوعان بقيامين. وتطويل القيام والركوع كله إلا القيام الذي وراءه السجود فبحسبه في سائر الصلوات. ويقرأ في القيام الأول بقدر سورة البقرة، وفي الثاني بقدر سورة آل عمران، وفي الثالث بقدر سورة النساء، وفي الرابع بقدر سورة المائدة. وينكث في كل ركعة بقدر القيام قبلها والإصرار في قراءتها، وأن تصلى إذا ظهر الكسوف وحلت الصلاة إلى الزوال. ويختلف فيما بعده، وأن يعظ الناس الإمام إثر صلاتها، وأن تصلى في الأمصار جماعة في الجوامع.
شكرا. Salatul Kusuf sunnatun, okay, wa sunanuha al-mukhtassa biha sit. So it is a prayer, the prayer at the time of eclipse. The reason, you could just say the prayer of eclipse, but I don't want to kind of make it sound a bit cultish in a way that, we're kind of praying almost as the sun goes into an eclipse. It kind of makes us like we don't want to. This is more a prayer which is triggered by that, just as an understanding. I'm sure we all understand that anyway, but it can have almost this type of effect to it that, like people could think, whoa, is it a bit spooky, or what type of folkloric tradition is this? It's not to do with that. It's just that these are signs from and of Allah, in a way, that meaning that Allah has set a system in place which operates in its own way, and it does this in the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ, when his son Ibrahim died. And the Prophet ﷺ was there. He kind of like approached the people, and the people were there, and there was a solar eclipse that took place. And in a way, it was you could say it was an opportunity to kind of maybe kind of attribute that to like to the Prophet ﷺ. I mean, it could have been, I mean, that could have been an opportunity by which the Prophet ﷺ could have said, like, see, like, this is what it, like, this is what's going on, that this is such a tragic day. Because these type of things, like, you know, like solar eclipses and lunar, by their very nature, they're quite spooky, and they have this effect on people, this type of, whoa, this awe-striking effect. And this in itself is one of the greatest demonstrations, really, of the sidq and the honesty and of the Prophet ﷺ, and the good character. That the Prophet ﷺ's response to that was that he said that inna ash-shamsa wal qamar, that ayatani min ayatillah, that these are signs from the signs of Allah, that la, he said that these are not, he said la yukhsaf li hayat, la li hayati wa la li mawti ahad, that they do not, that they are not eclipsed by the death or life of anybody. That this is basically a system which Allah has in place. That could have been an opportunity for the Prophet ﷺ to really say that, see, you know, you guys say this to me, now look, you know, that this, even the sun, you know, has been eclipsed because of the tragedy and so on. But that was not taken up like that, because that wasn't the case. And this is also stands testament to, you know, like people who tried to accuse the Prophet ﷺ and so on in his time. So anyway, I mean, what I'm trying to say is, coming back to the topic, is I don't want it to have that type of spooky effect that all of a sudden there's a special. It's really that this is a sign from the signs of Allah, and with it, if it occurs, a prayer has been kind of established. Okay, it would be a sunnah prayer, and it has some peculiarities to it. Hay'atuha fil ada wa hiya rak'atan, that the way it is prayed, that it is two rak'ahs. It has a unique type of method of practice, really, or the way it's kind of conducted is very unique. Fi kulli rak'atin ruku'an, that there are two rukus in each rak'ah. So it is unlike any other salah. So it has two rak'at. However, in each bi qiyamain bi sajdatain. Okay, so in each rak'ah there will be two rukus. So there will be the standing, the rest, whatever, you know, so much recitation, going into ruku, then standing again, recitation, going into ruku, and then you conclude the rak'ah, like stand and go into into sujood, and sujood is normal. Okay, so وَتَطْوِيلُ الْقِيَامِ وَالرُّكُوعِ كُلِّ إِلَّا الْقِيَامِ الَّذِي وَرَاءَهُ السُّجُودِ. And so there is, and both of those qiyams, the standing qiyams, will be kind of like reasonably long, except for when you get up to go, you know, say Sami Allahu liman hamida, and that's just normal. وَيَقْرَأْ فِي الْقِيَامِ الْأَوَّلِ, and to the extent that, and this was sometimes a lengthy prayer, it was a lengthy prayer, and in the first rak'ah they would read Surah Al-Baqarah.
Mufti, just, you know when he says إِلَّا الْقِيَامَ الَّذِي وَرَاءَهُ السُّجُودِ,
Yeah.
so does that mean you've just done the sujood, now you've stood up, and that qiyam?
No. He's talking about wara'ahu sujood. When you say Sami Allahu liman hamida. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Right. Because the first time you won't say Sami Allahu liman hamida, you'll get up and you start doing tilawah again. So, وفي الثاني بقدر آل إمران. Okay. وفي الثالث بقدر, now he's talking about the second rak'ah. Okay, so he's talking about in this, so basically your first, he's telling you how lengthy the surahs should be. So in the third بقدر النساء, and in the fourth al-Ma'idah. So you can imagine, I don't know how long this salah would have been, but that in itself is a few hours right there. That's like, so he's basically given some of the lengthiest surahs, and he's gone in order, like saying, you know, Surah Al-Baqarah, Ali Imran, Surah Al-Nisa, Al-Ma'idah. So these are basically starting after Fatiha, the lengthiest surahs they are. وَيَمْكُثُ فِي كُلِّ رَكْعَةٍ بِقَدْرِ الْقِيَامِ قَبْلَهَا. Now, وَالْإِسْرَارِ, and he remains in each rak'ah, right, بِقَدْرِ الْقِيَامِ قبلها. And he's just saying that basically you will be standing in each type of rak'ah, alaykum salam, for the length of qiyam that went before it. So meaning that elongate it. This is meant to be a very long type of salah that takes place. In general though, does anybody, and I don't know if there is an average, but an eclipse, a solar eclipse, how long would that kind of last for?
A few minutes, isn't it?
No, usually you can last. I think you can last for 20 minutes. Yeah.
About something like that, but this is much longer than that, clearly. So I mean, I don't know whether if it varies in certain parts of the world and has been, but I would have thought it doesn't, like it definitely wouldn't be hours, I would have thought. But I mean, I don't know. So that's the, so anyway, wal israru fi qira'atiha. Now this is another thing. He says that they actually recite silently, which makes it think that this is going to be a very lengthy and silent type of qira'ah that is going on.
In the Hanafi madhab as well, it's
No.
like this length of surah.
They do recommend lengthy surahs, actually in all of, but the Hanafi, they are slightly different, and I'll mention that in a moment. It is generally in the Hanbali madhab that they say that the Imam would recite aloud. Aloud would have actually made sense, because for such length you would think that they should be quite aloud. But having said that, they're obviously going with the fact it's that the salawat nahariya, that it is the day prayers, and therefore they are usually done inaudibly. وأن تصلى إذا ظهر الكسوف وحلت الصلاة إلى الزوال. Okay, even if now وأن تصلى إذا ظهر الخسوف وحلت الصلاة إلى الزوال ويختلف فيما بعده. نعم. So the point is that this is talking about what times would it be kind of prayed till. Okay, because the solar eclipse could technically take place at any type of, once there's been sunrise, presumably it could take place at any time. I'm not sure about the scientific, but generally from the text it's assuming that, and it's saying up until zawal. Okay, up until zawal, like, because zawal is because after that dhuhr salah would begin. Now there is some ikhtilaf about after, and they do mention that what about after Salatul Dhuhr and going into Asr, if it took place at that type of time? And a lot of people say at that time it shouldn't generally, a lot of the Maliki have said it shouldn't generally be kind of prayed at that time. So they see as that would have, because then it would preoccupy your time of Salah and it would go on for so long, especially the type of, because what they've said here would take hours to read. That wouldn't, like that, like saying, like what that's just said, or basically so they finished with Surah Ma'idah, which is in the 5th juz. So basically they've said to read 5 ajza of the Quran in a salah. Like that will take somebody a couple of hours to do. So to do that in the time of a different salah would render that salah kind of like push it out of its time. So they've not actually recommended that, and they do mention that, look, generally, لا تصلى بعد الظهر, and not just before it, although there is some debate where the Hanafiya have said it could be done at any time, including Dhuhr time and so on. And the Hanabila have said it could be done at any time, like the Shafi'iyya, except the Hanbalis have said not in the waqtul qaraha. So it can't be in a makruh time. The Malikiya are like, basically this could be done from when the sun rises up until the afternoon, if it happens then, but not during Dhuhr or Asr, because then it would just push those salahs out of their time. Okay,
Just do it, but do a short one.
I suppose that is one. Yeah, I mean you could, but they generally, I think as well, they just saw it as, I mean that is one.
Do the 4 qulls, as they would say.
The four qul.
One for each rak'ah.
There you go. That would kind of make a bit of sense. They mention, right, وأن يعظ الناس الإمام إثر صلاتها وأن تصلى في الأمصار جماعة في الجوامع, that the Imam after it would do a bit of preaching, and would.
Like a 2-hour prayer, then some.
I know. He's like, right, guys, sit down. Yeah, don't worry about it. So let's just do a tafsir of what we've read. So they would say that the imam does a bit of he preaches to the people, admonishes them after it, and this is prayed everywhere, jama'atan fil jawami'. Okay, it is prayed in the masajid. There is a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ prayed it just once, and the hadith is in Bukhari, but it also mentions actually that he read aloud in it. And this is why there is that debate of, what's... the Hanafiya disagree in it, that they say that it's just like the rest of the salahs. So it is 2 rak'ah, each rak'ah is just normal. It doesn't have 2 rukus and so on, and like 2 qiyams in each rak'ah. It's just like a normal 2 rak'ah salah, except they agree it should be this long. And I think their interpretation into this hadith, if I'm correct, right, if I recall correctly, is that I think they feel that the person who said that, he missed, like, due to the length of the recitation, he thought that they had kind of like maybe done 2 rukus and 2 qiyams in one. You see what I mean? Like, he kind of felt that, although that's, I think, one interpretation that has been transmitted from them about that, the person, because it was such a lengthy, he thought they doubled it in each one. But it wasn't actually the case, that it was just one. I mean, that's the Hanafiya take on it. But generally, the majority all accept that the Shafi'iyya, the Hanabila, the Malikiyya, that each rak'ah has 2 rukus in it. So it is a very unique type of salah, very rare. It isn't made up or anything like this afterwards. You don't make up for it or anything like that. It's just an opportunity to pray if it's there. You don't have to pray, it's not wajib, but although some people have taken, but not the Malikiyya, but some people have taken like a wujub type of stance, but they're an extreme, like that's a very literal thing into it.
You're not praying alone?
No, it is not done alone generally. I suppose if a person did read it, this is unlike, by the way, the khusuf one, which will come to the lunar eclipse, which I'll just although that's not in the text, I'll just briefly mention that to you, that the khusuf, the lunar eclipse, the Malikiyya general, for that there is a salah which is the same as this, except for that the Malikiyya and the Hanafiya do say that you do not pray in congregation, although if you did, but generally you just pray on your own. So that's the difference, and for that could be done audibly, since it is the prayer of the night. Okay, and really that's it. That's on the eclipse.
Is that also 2 rak'ah?
It would be 2 rak'ah. It would be the same as what we've just said about the solar eclipse prayer, except it would just be at night, and that you'd pray on your own. Okay, and you'd pray. You could do that aloud. That's all. I mean, these, once again, I mean, if it's not that, and that's not as emphasized, by the way, as this would, like, I'm just saying, if you were to put them in a hierarchy, this would be much more emphasized than the lunar eclipse salah. Okay, that's just, it's kind of there. If you do it, it's a good thing. It's a bit like that. It's not as emphasized. Right.
Can I just clarify what this means? To me, that just means each rak'ah has to be the same.
Yeah, each rak'ah, like, basically you will, because what he's trying to say, he's given certain salahs, or certain surahs which are very lengthy, but they're kind of almost systematic in there, because like starting with Surah Baqarah and Al Imran and so on, although they are reducing, but they're not reducing massively. It's not like you're just reading Amma Yatasa'alun after Al Imran. So there is a difference, but it's not that big. And he's trying to say that you would, each qiyam, each rak'ah would be like, it would be kind of relevant in size to the one before it. Like, you wouldn't have like you wouldn't have like one really lengthy, next one Qul Ya al-Kafirun, and the next one really lengthy, and the next one just like Qul Huwallahu Ahad. You keep everything kind of paced out with an equal proportionality. That's how you do it. Okay, so Na'am, Salatul Witr.
Salatul Witr, Sunnah. وسننها المختصة بها ثلاث: أن تصلى ركعة بعد ركعتين فأكثر منفصلة، وأن تصلى بعد العتمة، وأن لا تؤخر إلى طلوع الفجر. ومستحباتها ثلاث: أن يقرأ في الركعة بالإخلاص والمعوذتين، وفي الشفع قبلها بسورة الأعلى وسورة الكافرون، وأن يجهر فيها، وأن تؤخر إلى آخر الليل.
Shukran. Salatul Witr. Witr means odd. Okay, it can be said as like odd as in odd numbers and even numbers. Okay, even numbers in Arabic are known as shafa', and odd are watr or witr. And in a hadith that inna Allaha witr or watr, does it? I think it's come with both narrations, but watr they generally do use for like odd, watr or shafa' for even. Now the salah, what's popular is we call it just witr, but that's what it's referring to. It is an odd prayer of the night. Now it is a sunnah prayer, wa sunnanuha al-mukhtassa, that it is prayed as one rak'ah following the shafa' before it. That means following the even, the rak'atain, the two type of nafil prayer, if you like, before it. Now it is separate in itself though. It is one rak'ah prayed on its own, and it is prayed after Isha. It cannot be prayed before Isha, Salatul Isha, and it shouldn't generally be brought into Fajr. But if Fajr had arrived and you still hadn't prayed witr, you could still pray witr.
Could you pray without the two and not the...
You can technically pray without the two, but it's better to pray with the two before it. Okay, that's the general method. But if a person did just pray one witr, then technically, I mean, although as far as the Maliki are concerned, it's not a good thing. In fact, most of the madhabs don't generally see it as a good thing, but it would still be valid. It is transmitted from Muawiyah radiallahu anh that he would often just pray one witr, like he wouldn't pray anything before it. And when Ibn Abbas, I believe, was kind of like somebody tried to complain to Ibn Abbas about that, the saying that look at Muawiyah, just prays one, and his response was that Muawiyah is a faqih, he's a scholar of Islam. So it can be prayed as one. Imam Malik, when he was asked about praying just one, he said that Salatul Witr, that it is a rak'ah after two, tutiru ma kana qabla, that it kind of makes odd the even numbers that went before it. And he said, so if there was nothing before it, فَأَيَّ شَيْءٍ تُوتِرْ, that what does it make odd? Like, meaning what even thing does it make odd if nothing precedes it? But I suppose, but the answer to that could have been, not that I'm trying to answer the Imam radiallahu an, but what I'm trying to say is that it in itself is the odd thing.
Because based on hadith,
No, obviously. Oh.
golden chain hadith of do the witr, because that makes odd that preceded it.
No, this is what I just said. His response was that it makes odd what kind of went before it. But I mean, the hadith which is in Bukhari and Muslim actually mentions Aisha saying he prayed 5, and the actual wording where they say that she would say that kana yusalli al-witr rak'atan as either 1, or thalathan as 3, or khamsatan, and that's in Bukhari and Muslim. And she says that, and he would read them, and it mentions wala yajlisu illa fi akhiri rak'a, and that only in the last one would he then sit. And in some riwayas, yutiru min dhalik bi khamsin la yajlisu illa fi akhirihinna, that he would pray 5 rak'ah and only the 5th one would he make as this even. I mean, the thing is that is the general understanding, but once again the answer could be that it makes the 4 fard witr. That's what it does, because you've just prayed 4 fard before it, or you may have prayed 2 sunnah after it as well. But I mean, the general method, having said that, is that witr is prayed with 2 rak'ah type of nafil preceding it, and then followed by this one.
But isn't that the full hadith?
Sorry, say that
The
again.
full hadith is the night prayer is at twos. So when one of you fears the coming of dawn, you pray one.
Oh,
That one
yeah.
makes odd order.
Makes for it. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's several hadith to do with witr. Like the one I just read was also the same thing. The main thing is that the witr is done in this time. It is one prayer, generally one rak'ah, generally according to most of the madhabs. Although if a person prayed 3 connected like the Hanafiya do, it's fine as well. It's not like it's not right or anything, but it's just that they prefer, the Malikiyya, the Shafi'iyya, the Hanabila prefer to pray 1 rak'ah of witr on its own, as opposed to praying 3 connected. Okay.
Would it be seen as like blameworthy then to leave the 2 out and pray after?
He did like.
I mean, I think, but I think,
Can I ask a favour? Can one of the brothers not pick up my son from the train station? No, don't worry. Will you go? I don't want to get out. I just told you just get a taxi, but he's on the surface.
Is he here now?
He's at New Street. He's just got it from Manchester. I wanted to come home. I just want to go home.
I don't mind doing anything.
okay, are you done? Okay, shukran.
I'll give you his number and then just get to New Street.
Okay, so the thing is that's generally the ruling of witr. It is, by the way, I mean, if a person prayed 1, in my understanding, it's not too much of a problem. But I mean, generally, the madhab does promote that you should be praying them as 3, as in 2 before it and 1. But in my understanding, that witr is 1 rak'ah, as it's mentioned in the Sahih Hadith. If a person prayed 1, that was the practice of some Sahaba, used to just pray 1. You know, a person has done what he had to do. But it is a sunnah prayer. Some of the Malikiyya, like Asbagh and even they say Sahnun, it's interpreted that they treated it as though it was a fard.
What were you on, son? I'm going to challenge you on everything you say.
Okay. One witr. And the thing is that it is generally considered a sunnah, although some of the Malikiyya kind of their wording was as though they were treating it like a fard. I know in the Hanafi school of fiqh, it is considered a wajib prayer, which really, which isn't still a fard, but it's almost like a fard. So it's treated with a bit more type of importance, even though within the Maliki and the Shafi'iyya it's important, but according to them it's wajib. So it's almost sinful not to do it. So whereas
coming from that Hanafi background where we were taught, you know, if you miss a sunnah mu'akkada regularly without a good reason, that's sinful and you incur sin for it. I still have to keep asking this question. What's the case in the Maliki? I know you said
no,
before,
because the
but
thing is,
that-
we don't believe that missing a sunnah, omitting a sunnah, is a sin. But
so there's no sort of stigma attached to that.
now
because
there
it's
is
makruh
there.
and it's,
No,
you know,
okay,
something
right,
like that, or
okay,
how
yeah,
do they
it's
describe it in the
right,
Hadith?
okay. They would say, depends obviously what we're talking about, but they would say in general, to miss a sunnah would be obviously like in that sense, by converse judgment or by adverse type of inference, we would understand that. Look, obviously because it's something which is better to do than not to do. Therefore, there is karaha in it, but karaha it does not, in the Maliki context, is still a qism of permissibility. It's still from the section of permissibility. It's not from the section of tahrim.
Is it, so it's not from the section?
No, it's not
frowned
clearly.
upon as, you know,
No, frowned upon as in, yeah, it might be frowned upon, but it's not seen as like, I see, I don't know how you're interpreting frowned upon. Frowned upon, like, so for example, wasting time is frowned upon.
Yeah.
Like that would be,
No, but in the Hanafi context, they don't.
Yeah,
it's
but
not
they-
like
no,
that.
but
If
they-
something's tahrim, they say it's like.
no, but that's tahrim though, because it's sinful. Like, we don't believe that it incurs sin, but we believe that it's not like, yeah, obviously it's,
Do they have degrees of sunnah then? Like, if they would, you know, when you're learning Hanafi fiqh, it's very straightforward in that this is a sunnah mu'akkada, this isn't. So this is really emphasized.
Okay.
You should do this. It's sinful.
We have,
you don't do it. Is there that
that's-
same distinction?
right, so the thing is that the same type of thing as I explained, that we have gone through this before, that there
I
is
know,
like a
but I can't-
spectrum.
it's that
The
bias
thing is
as
that,
well.
look, there's a difference. The categories are in all the schools. It's not that the Hanafiya, okay, have more categories, that's all. But having more doesn't necessarily mean it's more clearer. It just means they've got more, that's all, of categories. The Malikiyya, the Shafi'iyya sometimes, I think, also split their things further. The Malikiyya have 5 categories, that's it. Like, so something in the sense that it will be either, you know, whether it will be just permissible, whether something will be recommended, which within the realm of recommendation comes sunnah, right? And there's a like a continuum. So there's something which will be a fadila, it's recommended, and something more emphatically, or there's more emphasis on its recommendation, therefore it is, what is it, like a sunnah. Now opposing that, there is karaha, like something is makruh. Like sometimes just doing something could be makruh. Abandoning sunnahs, like as in abandoning them all the time, right, would fall into that, but it would depend on your intention. So, and then you have wajib, which correlates with haram. Now the thing is that when people, some of the Maliki ulama do write, oh, missing sunnahs is haram, like abandoning the sunnah is haram. Some of them have written that. So the question is, when some have written that, what have they meant by it? Because the general understanding in the Maliki madhab isn't like that, like in the sense, oh, if you leave a sunnah, it's a sin. So how is it haram? And that comes back to your intention. If you are abandoning it as in disparaging the sunnah, like as in, oh, like thinking nothing of it, like I don't think anything of the sunnah, I don't need to be praying the sunnah, like that approach would be a haram, in the sense that you are belittling the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And Allah says, وَمَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ, what the messenger has given you, then take it. So if you're not taking it, okay, but if you're not, it's not that you're not taking it out of this type of arrogant attitude. That would be haram. But if you were just like out of laziness, or out of, you just, oh, can't, like, can't be, it's not that you disrespect the concept of sunnah, but you're just too lazy to do it, right? That is not the same as, that would obviously, in that sense, yeah, it would be makruh that you never do it. I don't mean like as a one-off it wouldn't be a problem at all, but we're talking about you never do it. So let's say somebody never reads witr as 3, always just reads it as 1. Yeah, so in that case, it would be seen as like a makruh thing that, you should be doing it like this. But that makruh is not from the category of haram or sin. It just means it's better not to be doing what you're doing. It's better, like what's better is the opposite, that you should be doing your witr, as opposed to, or not sorry, your witr, but the 2 before it. You shouldn't be like kind of reducing it to just 1. You should be doing 3. But it's not haram, there isn't a sin. As long as there isn't that mental attitude of, I don't need the sunnah, what the hell is the sunnah? Like that. That would be clear-cut haram.
That's the difference then, I think, because I'm sure when I was taught as a Hanafi, if you were engaging in something repeatedly or leaving a sunnah markers repeatedly, you were sinful.
Now, look, some people...
So that's what I have to get my head around.
Okay, some people have said this. I've seen this in some texts where people have said... I have seen it, not many, but I've seen sometimes some people speaking about, doing something is like for example, a makruh, and then repetitively doing a makruh shifts it to this, and then this can shift it to, this, like, first of all, you've got to put everything into context. Like them just saying that in an isolated circumstance, like I'm not exactly sure what are they talking about. Like maybe in some context it may have some weight to what they're talking about, but we've got to see examples. In this particular case, or in these type of cases, that's not how it works. It's not that, I've done a makruh 100 times, now that makruh is a haram all of a sudden. That would be nonsense. That's like saying wasting time is makruh. So, I've wasted time almost, every week, every day, I've wasted a certain amount of time. So now that I'm this years old, so doing it another day would be haram. That's dumb to kind of look at it like that. So in some context, maybe that there's, but we've got to see that. So when people make these statements, I have come across them sometimes. As a general statement, I would very much disagree with it. I don't believe that's how it works. I don't believe, maybe in some circumstances they've got some truth to what they're saying. Obviously we have to look at their circumstances, what they're talking about. I do believe, as Imam Shatibi says, that some things shift categories. This shift of category can take place in some things. So wasting time is a good example. Wasting time is like makruh. But if a person decides to waste his life, like as in that his whole life was useless, then it may shift categories into something haram, because you're saying that, like in the sense that right, so no, so like that. So imagine a person said, look, a good example is like people entertainment. entertainment is a good example, because entertainment, a little here, a little there, a bit of this, a bit of that, people doing things, that's life. It'll be better not to do it than to do it, but people want to do it, so it'll be probably makruh. To become immersed in entertainment, that you now lose all productivity, would become haram. Like, not for the entertainment per se, but the fact that what you're doing to yourself is that, but at what point does it change would be difficult to assess. But these rulings, there are some that shift categories for people, okay? Just to kind of clarify that. Imam Shatibi, and he gives the example of chess. Imam Shatibi does. He says if a person played chess, it isn't haram. A person can play chess, can do this. But if a person got carried away and chess became their life, and because chess obviously takes time to play, so in that case,
What about PlayStation?
I would say the same type of thing about computer games. I would say if a person, obviously, computer games more as well only affect a person at a particular age usually. So usually once they're beyond a certain age, they won't usually find them as fascinating. Maybe they do, and we've just missed out. But I mean, so I mean, I wouldn't think that they're too worried about them beyond a certain age. But if they are, then that's a problem. And the same would apply for things like music and all this type of stuff. Okay, so let's. وَمُسْتَحَبَّاتُهَا ثَلَاث, and 3 recommendations that you read Surah Al-Ikhlas, Mu'awwidhatayn, وَفِي الشَّفْعِ قَبْلَهَا, and so you read that in your witr. That's in 1 rak'ah, you read those, like the 3 quls that are mentioned, and in the 2 rak'ahs before is Surah وَيَسَبِّحِ اسْمَ رَبِّكَ الْأَعْلَى and قُلْ يَا الْكَافِرُونَ, and you read that aloud. وَأَن تُؤَخَّرْ إِلَى آخِرِ اللَّيْلِ, and if you can, delay your witr to as late as possible. Shall we quickly do Salatul Fajr now? Yeah. I think we'll quickly I'll just quickly read Salatul Fajr, and that will leave us at Janazah then, and that, so next time we can just start a fresh type of section. Salatul Fajr.
You do witr just before Fajr.
Yeah, but really it shouldn't be in Fajr time. But if you had to do it in Fajr time, you would do it, but the thing is, it shouldn't be done like that generally all the time, or planned to be done like that.
Would it be sinful to leave out the witr?
I think you see, it would come back to, it is one of the most emphasized sunnah amongst like Salatul Eid and Salatul what we've been reading about things. Witr is also one of the most emphasized sunnah. To leave it out would come back to your reasoning and how it. I think if it's left out as a one-off type of thing, one time whatever, a person got busy and they didn't pray, and another time happened, like these type of things, I don't believe that's sinful at all. I think if a person abandoned the witr, I think that sense of abandonment in this.
Didn't it go against the Hadith when the man came to Rasulullah and asked him about prayer, and he said, "I prayed twice." He said, "I've got one prayer less than one."
Yeah, I mean that is obviously the thing that comes when when I explain sunnah before. That is what comes on the other side to say that no, and argues against what I'm saying. But the thing is that if it would come back to why you've abandoned the witr, because it is one of the few things that is so emphasized. So obviously the question would come back. So if you said, look, I was just busy, and otherwise I will pray. This is why I said, look, okay, that's. But if a person just forever just never prays the witr, I'm not. This is why some of the Maliki were so strict about it that it's been interpreted almost that they were trying to say it was wajib. But really it's not wajib, it's just that it's so emphasized that why are you just. And it's only 1 rak'ah in essence. So why are you abandoning the 1 rak'ah? It doesn't really make sense. So, but you're right. Really, the fara'id are clear. Okay, but this is it leaves a big question mark why somebody would just abandon the witr. Right. Okay. Now, Salatul Fajr is sunnah.
So, Sheikh,
No.
when it comes to make your missed prayers,
Yeah, you don't make up witr.
so it doesn't.
No, you don't make up witr. Yeah, the Hanafi are a bit different on because they consider it wajib. We don't consider it wajib. You don't make it up. You can pray up until the subah time at worst case scenario. Okay, like so when it's subah and you haven't prayed it, you can pray it, but you don't make it up. So
recommended that you pray tahajjud and then pray witr.
yeah, it's recommended, as I said, to pray the witr at the end of the late most part of the night that you can. But okay, and Fajr, and this is talking about the 2 rak'ah Fajr. It's not talking about the fard of which we call subah. So Salatul Fajr is Sunnah, and some have categorized it as Raghiba, which really, and I explained, was just a technical difference. I mean, don't sweat it too much. And it has 5 Sunan. كونها ركعتين خفيفتين is read very quickly as 2 short rak'ah. والقراءة فيهما سرا بأم القرآن فقط. This thing, وأن لا يصلى بعدها صلاة إلا الصبح, that is read, that nothing is prayed after it except Salatul Subh, the fard, and it is read so quickly that a lot of the Malikiya push that you only read Surah Fatiha in it. You don't even read a surah. Although some Malikiya have questioned that and said, look, they just said, just hold your horses, just read a short surah. Like they've said, like Abu Bakr ibn al-Arabi says, read a short surah with it. But this evidence that some of the Malikiya have based this on doesn't seem to be too clear, in the sense that they say that Aisha radiallahu anha said that, look, that the Prophet ﷺ used to pray so fast that I would say, did he even read a surah? That this is like it's idiomatic usage of language. It's not descriptive or prescriptive in saying that don't read a surah. So really, I would say just read something very short with it, even if it's a verse or 2. But the popular, or the mashhur, if you want to say what is taught, is that you don't need to read a surah in the Fajr, only the Fatiha. And the mustahabbat سائر التطوعات والنوافل المختصة بها 5, that 5 actions associated with all recommended nawafil, etc., or that one تصلى ركعتين منفصلتين, that nafil are only prayed in 2s. We don't pray 4 nafil. Unlike the Hanafiya, where there's a difference and they allow the 4, we pray just in 2. So and jahar fi salat al-layl, if it's during the night you read aloud. If it's israr fi salat al-nahar, if it's during the day if it's during the day you read silently. If it's during the night you read aloud. Wa ikhfa'u dhalika an a'yun an-nas, it's better to read your nafil privately on your own. It's not to boast or show people about them. Wa ikhtulifa ayyuhuma afdal, and there's a difference and a debate, what is better, takthir rak'at, praying more rak'ah, or having shorter rak'ah but longer qiyam, standing for longer. واختار بعض العلماء التكثير بالنهار والتطويل بالليل, and some ulama, Qadi Iyad said if it's during the day it's perhaps better to read more rak'ah, and if it's during the night it's perhaps better to just stand longer. And that brings us really to the end of Salatul Fajr, which then leads into Salatul Janazah, which will continue inshallah next session. Subhanallah wa ta'ala amma yasifun, wassalatu wassalamu ala afdal ar-rusul, al-madinatu khayrul lakum in kuntum ta'lamun. Wassalamu alaikum.